What's going on, fellow A-plussers, fellow Force users? It's your boy Adam Perez back once again with a brand new episode review for Light and Life as we're set to go ahead and get into our Star Wars The Acolyte live weekly reviews for you guys. Starting off fresh today on episodes 1 and 2, we're going to be go ahead and giving you guys our thoughts and our breakdown in regards to this particular week's 2 episodes. But it's not just myself coming to you. We got ourselves a great Star Wars gang here, ladies and gentlemen. Introducing good old Stewart Branscombe from Hero Report with us as always. And of course, one of our favorite contributors around here, Will Polk from Scene and Nerd. Good to see you guys. What's going on, my fellow Jedi Masters?
Hello, hello.
What's on? What's going on,
What's
man? How you
up?
doing, Will? I feel like I
So,
haven't seen you in forever, man.
I know. We've talked some on social, but it's good to be streaming with you guys tonight. So thank you for having me on. Of course, we'll be also covering the show on our podcast, Scene and Nerd. Our review will drop this Friday, but we're recording
Nice.
tomorrow. But enjoy the opportunity to talk with you guys about it, and look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to hearing your episode 2 for Scene and Nerd, most definitely. Stuart, what's going on, man? I see you shaved the beard, man. We were
Yeah,
loving it this past weekend.
yeah, man. I was getting really attached to the goatee, but unfortunately, like when I was shaving it, when I was
Ah,
trimming it, I accidentally shaved too deeply on one side, so it just wasn't even. So I had to like get rid of the whole thing. So I do plan on growing it back though. Eventually, it'll come back soon.
I feel you, man. Maybe your hair grows like me and it'll just like sprout overnight.
Oh
If you're
yeah.
lucky. If
No,
you're
I give it
lucky.
like maybe. I think it usually takes like a month before I get like a full beard.
Well, look, man, it's good to see everybody here today. We will be having a fourth member from time to time jumping in and out. Good old Crystal Kyber from the YouTube channel. If you want to go ahead and check out her work as well, she will be joining us on a weekly basis here and there. But this is going to be our main group for the next several weeks. We're going to be diving into episodes 1 and 2 for you guys today, and then each week on the individual episodes. This is a brand new timeline of Star Wars for us to go ahead and dive into. I believe about 100 years or so before the Phantom Menace. So interesting time period to say the least. It is in fact the tail end of the High Republic era. If you guys have not been following the High Republic era in form of the novels, I highly would certainly recommend it. If you have watched The Acolyte, you're pretty interested and want to dive a little bit deeper into this particular time period, I would highly recommend this lovely book for you guys right here. This is The Light of the Jedi. This is the kickoff book for the High Republic by Charles Soule. Incredible first book, to be quite frank with you. Sucked me in. I love the pacing of this. Great characters, honestly, and a really fun time period and some new villains to certainly enjoy. So,
Wait,
um,
so is Jedi Master Soul named after the author of that book?
hey, maybe. I don't know. Maybe she,
maybe.
yeah, maybe Leslie Headland took some influence from that for all we know. But some great reading material if you guys are certainly interested. But let's go ahead and dive into this, man, because look, we've been waiting patiently for more Star Wars content to hit, and it is in fact finally here. I think the marketing and the promotion and build-up for this show has been ridiculous. I don't know exactly how much they spent on marketing, but I feel like I've been seeing trailers, featurettes, behind the scenes interviews. They really have been pushing this, and hopefully people have been enjoying it so far. Remember, guys, at the end of the day, these are just our A+ opinions. We always want to know yours. The live chat is open. If you want to leave some comments and some thoughts as we talk about this week's episode, please feel free to go ahead and bounce off of our conversation. And most importantly, let us know what you guys thought about these first 2 episodes. But fellas, let's go ahead. Overall thoughts. We got 2 episodes in the books. Will, you are our guest here. Give me your overall brief thoughts on what you thought about the first 2 episodes overall.
Brief thoughts. I think it was fun. I'm just gonna be honest. I really, as you noted, there's been a lot of promotion for this show, and I was whenever it was first announced. I think it was what gosh was that like did D23 like back in
Yeah,
2019 or 2020?
it's
It's
been a
been a
while.
while. So I was really interested with the concept, and as we got closer to the marketing, I will say I was underwhelmed, to be blunt. I did feel a little bit better with the trailer on Star Wars Day, but then When we got to the episode, these 2 episodes, I would say they were fine. I not as good as Andor, but better than some of the things we've had in the Star Wars universe of late. So I didn't cringe, and I think the series definitely has some potential. And I am interested to see where they go over these next 6 weeks. Maybe it's one of those things that just starts slow and it just really pops, or we could have a situation where it's just fine throughout. But those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The trailers, the first trailer I thought was pretty good, but kind of lacking a little bit. Um, I did see a short clip when I went and saw the 25th anniversary for the Phantom Menace, and it was literally the opening scene of May facing off against Indara, but I could tell even that scene was briefly edited, and that got me excited. But I will say, I think the featurettes and the behind the scenes stuff got me personally more excited than just the trailers. The trailers feel
Yeah,
like they were definitely trying to hide a lot of stuff, and you kept seeing kind of a lot of repetitive scenes that they wanted you to see without giving certainly too much away. So I
yeah,
thought the marketing really was stronger with the behind the scenes
yeah.
and featurette. So I totally agree with you about the marketing. What about
Yeah,
you, Stuart? What's your overall? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, go ahead. Continue.
yeah, just one quick thing as far as the marketing, and as far as Stewart, I'll let you go. Uh, the featurettes, one I did see during the basketball, and I talked about this in our podcast, and I'll get into more in our review, but it definitely left me it put me back on this side of like, I'm not sure about this.
Mm, gotcha. I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
What about you, Stuart? Overall thoughts on the first 2 episodes?
I think so talking about the marketing, I don't think I saw too many of the featurettes. I think for the marketing, it was mostly just like the trailers that were released, and then the only interviews I saw were the ones that we kind of covered on A Plus Year Report. But other than that, it was mostly just the trailers that were released, and of course that really awesome promo trailer that they played during the Phantom Menace when that was being re-released in theaters. So for me, I was decently hyped for this. Mostly, I was just hyped to see an era of Star Wars in live action that we had never seen before. For the most part, though, I went into this not really with the highest expectations, but also with not without low expectations either. There were way too many people online that were just ready to hate the show before it even aired, and I just did not want to be one of those people. So I just again, I kind of just went with no expectations, didn't know how this was going to go one way or the other, and because of that. I found the show kind of like I feel Will, you mentioned like underwhelming, and I were you talking about the marketing or the show itself or both?
Um, the marketing. I mean, I have gotten to this place where I try not to watch too many trailers. To
Mm.
be honest, yeah,
Yeah.
so because and I love basketball, and so it seemed like for a while, every game, there was like more. So the word got out about this series. But one of the things you did mention, Stuart, that we have seen a lot in the discourse lately as people just hating on the show for the sake of hating it, and
Mm.
so I never want to be in that space. I really did not. I mean, I was hyped, as I said earlier, when I first saw the concept, was a little, as I saw those trailers, the first one, I was kind of like, meh, it was shades of Ahsoka because there were like some lightsaber battles and things like that. I was like, oh, there's nothing new here. And then
Hmm.
that second
Mm.
trailer, I felt like, okay, on Star Wars Day, that trailer really got me hooked back in, like, oh, I see something fresh, something different here. And then the featurette that kind of pissed me off, quite frankly, um, I mean, was especially like what we see what happens in the first 10 minutes of the episode is Carrie Ann Moss, the Trinity. I was like, I even told my wife, I was like, I feel like I'm just watching, and even on our podcast, I was like, told Sarah, I'm like, I feel like I'm watching Matrix 10. Um, so it was one of those things where that just kind of put me back on the like, oh boy. I have not to quote Star Wars, I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that was kind of
um,
my oh.
yeah, but that was where I was really going with that, with the marketing.
Okay, because like for me, I feel like the first episode as a whole was definitely underwhelming, and that was like how I would describe it. I think yeah, like at the very end of the first episode, that was my thought was, "Ooh, I got a bad feeling about this." The first episode, like it's not that it was bad. In fact, I actually really did like that scene, even though I was really shocked that they like killed her off in the only scene that she's in. As far as we know, unless there's going to be flashbacks going forward in the show later on. But I was really shocked they killed her off that fast because I was like assuming she was going to be playing like a big part in the show. But some of the dialogue wasn't very good. Like the specifically, and I get why they wrote it this way. There is a specific purpose to build mystery and everything, but at the same time, you also use dialogue that people wouldn't use in real life to do so. And that is when like we see basically the assassin's face for the first time. And I keep saying Carrie Ann Moss, Indira, that's her name. I have all the names listed here because I knew I was going to forget. But Indira, we know when she sees her face, she just goes, "You," and I hate it when shows right
Mhm.
or when shows write characters to just say "you" because it's like. No one says that in real life, It's just
Yeah.
it's just a cheap way to keep the mystery going. There were just other ways I think they could have let the audience know that she knew who this character was without like kind of giving it without like giving out who it was to the audience, because obviously I get that if she said, "Oh, it's you, May," then it's like that would have just kind of like taken
Mhm.
away a big part of the mystery. So I get that, but I just feel like anything would have been better than just so that was where I first was like, oh no. And then there were of course a few nitpicks that because I was watching it with my fiance, we would have like here and there, like of course the whole thing where there was fire on the outside of the ship, even though they're in the vacuum of space, but I didn't want to let that get to me because I'm like, okay, you know what, I still want to just kind of like let the show play out. But then there were just other things of like how the first episode just felt very padded with how they were trying to drag the story out. Like I've never seen Jedi basically tell someone that they're under arrest and then have a prison ship escort them to the Jedi prison. That it's usually the Jedi are the one to
Yeah.
escort them to the prison, but because they needed an excuse to make it look like she was trying to escape, they instead send her on a ship like piloted by droids, and that
Yeah.
just like to me just felt like very. I don't know.
Mhm.
It just felt like bad writing. Like they just really needed the story to go in a specific direction, and they didn't really care how they got there.
Mhm.
So by the end of the first episode, I didn't hate it. I wasn't as hooked as I wanted to be on it. It was just very
Mhm.
okay. But thankfully, and this is like kind of with Andor, how I felt with Andor, like if they released the first 3 episodes like weekly instead of all three at the same time, I probably would have lost interest in that show immediately. And that's how I feel about this because I don't think I would have been excited for the next episode if I had to wait a week. But because I got to watch it immediately afterwards, I saw a lot of improvements in episode 2. I think the mystery actually got a lot better. I think the writing got a lot more solid. Once we kind of see like what this mystery is starting to build up towards, I'm a little more intrigued now. We get to see a lot more of the Jedi, and the Jedi kind of in this give me a similar vibe, specifically with the Jedi, even though we don't see the Jedi Council per se. The way the Jedi are operating, it very much kind of reminds me of Attack of the Clones, where they seem more interested in protecting their image than they do of protecting the public. And I think that could be what actually ties into the overall mystery that we're looking into, and possibly even tie into why in Phantom Menace, they say we haven't seen like a Sith in over 500 years, even though this takes place, before that 500. This is like only 100 years before Phantom Menace. And I think it could lead to the reason why, in history says we haven't seen one in 500 years, but in here it seems like that might not be the case because you could kind of see the Jedi in this case actually covering it up, in order to, again, kind of protect their image the same way they did like in Attack of the Clones. So I like that aspect of it as the mystery is going on with that. I also really like Jedi Master Soul. And again, Adam and I were talking about this on Hero Report. It's amazing, like the performance this actor is able to give when he apparently doesn't speak English and he's like learning like the language like as he's filming the show. Like he's given an amazing performance. And then yeah, once we're kind of like learning a little bit more of the characters, they're starting starting to grow on me a lot more. So I think these two work a lot better as a whole, but I think
Mhm.
individually, if we're just looking at the first episode, very, very underwhelming. But I think the second one really helps lift it up.
I will agree with you, Stu, in the sense that I do like how they put these two episodes together. I thought it was a really smart idea on their part. Like for me, when I after I watched the first episode, I was really curious to dive into the second episode after the first. And so for me, I think it carried some pretty good momentum into the second episode. The idea of it kind of had they just done the one episode per week sort of thing, which they eventually will after they drop these first two episodes. But I do think that this show benefited at least from grouping these two particular episodes together to go ahead and get us started with this journey and this mystery. For me, it is the complete opposite in the sense, Stuart, that for me, I was a bigger fan of the first episode than I was the second one. I enjoyed the series. I've enjoyed the first two episodes so far. I will say I think for me the second one is a little bit weaker than the other. Um, there are some performances in here that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, but I think that there are more good performances than stale ones. And it maybe it could just be also the idea that I've become such a big fan of the Master Saul and OSHA relationship. And just those two characters as a whole, that I think that they might even outweigh some of the other bad performances. Like those two alone, I think, are enough for me to really sort of pay attention. I have really enjoyed the mystery that they've put together so far. I personally at least enjoy the pacing when it comes to the revelations that we're kind of getting in here. I think after the very first opening sequence, Indira versus May, and then the very next sequence, waking up to seeing OSHA, it definitely puts that idea in your head of like, is this the same person sort of thing, right? It definitely starts making you kind of wonder and question. Maybe I did hear somebody say maybe it was a little bit too predictable in regards to the reveal of it being a twin. It was definitely on my mind, but I was waiting for them to kind of confirm it for me. But when they did confirm it, I was like, aha, like first mystery solved sort of thing. But there seems to be a lot of layers in here. There's a lot of mystery involved. There's a lot more going on with these masters, especially the four in particular that May are trying to, that she's certainly trying to kill. And so for me, I find myself engrossed in this mystery. I need to not only know who this master is or who this apprentice is that's training the acolyte, but I also need to know what happened on OSHA and May's home planet that has May in the perspective of needing to kill somebody. And so for me, I find myself a little bit more entrenched in the mystery and have really enjoyed. Well, I have enjoyed the first episode. The second episode was just good to me, but it definitely, certainly, still needs some work. Again, I think the performances in here didn't necessarily work, and I think if I do have another gripe, while I love Andor, and Andor came across as such a cinematic sort of masterpiece, like you can really tell where they kind of put the budget at. And I find it interesting that the Acolyte, while it does have a huge budget, I believe they even stated that they didn't even use the volume in this.
Yeah.
Like these are all big sort of set pieces. The ships, I think, look huge in scope. I do love the world, like the going to different worlds and stuff. It
Mhm.
does make the universe feel a little bit bigger in that regards. But when you get to the set pieces, it does feel like a television show. And I don't
Mhm.
know if
Mhm.
I don't know if it feels a little odd when I watch it. I'm still engrossed, but there are moments when I'm like for instance, they went in the second episode when they go to the temple, and on that planet, I'm like, this doesn't even feel like a temple. It feels more like an outpost. Like it's so
Yeah.
small, like it. And so I do wish it was a little bit grander in scale when we get to the set pieces, whether that be wider shots, seeing more people in the town, or maybe the filter that they use when they're filming. I don't know what it is, but it is something that kind of throws me off when I watch it. I almost feel like a lot of that budget went to more marketing and maybe not so much to the set pieces, even though they say they built some pretty big ones. So those are really my two gripes. Is it feeling like a television show, and then maybe not the best performances, but I'm intrigued. I personally, overall in the 2 episodes, I enjoyed it. I do think the first episode is stronger than the second one for me personally. But I can say I don't think it's a bad show at all. Like, people
Yeah.
that are trashing the show, I
Yeah.
clearly have not watched the show. Clearly they have not watched the show, because there's a lot more good in this show than there certainly is bad. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I would agree, I think, with something what you said, Will, in the sense that this can either just stay where it's at, or it can continue to build. And there's a part of me that wants to believe, just with the revelations that we've gotten and opening some of the boxes of mystery, there's got to be more here to it also. So I'm here for the ride, man. I'm here for the ride.
Yeah, yeah. There are several. You guys had a lot of thoughts, and I share many of them. To one of the Stewart's points about some of the writing is that the mystery to me. I mean, they were pretty clear in some of the promotional materials. When you look at the one, I think the last key art had Osha and May
Yeah, right behind you.
on, yeah, on there. So, so for me, I was like, whenever things happen, especially when Osha like woke up on the ship, with the, multiple times, it was, they telegraphed it. I mean, it was either going to be a twin or split personality. So, so for me, it was like, which path are they going to go down? And so I was cool either way, to be honest.
I'm glad you picked that up, because it didn't even fathom on me, honestly. I was just thinking to myself, yeah, she's clearly the killer. But I'm glad you were able to figure that out, though.
Yeah. So whenever Indira was killed, it was just like, okay, they telegraphed there was a certain points that were like, okay. And then, like I said, for me, it was one of those things where, okay, which path are they going to go down? And they chose the twins path, especially when it had the scene where they had the flashback and all those kind of things. So I get where they were trying to build the mystery. Unfortunately, some things were telegraphed. However, I do like, one of the things I did like about it was how they set this up as why May wants to kill these 4 Jedi. That's the thing that right now is really keeping me invested in the show after the first 2 episodes, is why is she so determined to murder these 4 Jedi? Because some of the other pieces, quite frankly, like with the ship, and like Stewart made a great point with the droid. I mean, that was just like, come on, plot convenience. I mean, there's just so many plot conveniences in set pieces in the show, that I think, again, that really goes to my feeling like, oh, it's fine. So that's, so I guess, again, since the show was greenlit several years ago, it's sort of like, it's sort of like the mid, we've had a lot of great television over the last 2 years. And I think storytelling, we as audience members want more, and Andor shows this, want more complex story. So, I think what made Andor work was, for some in the fandom, is it was grown up storytelling. I think where this one goes back to that sort of, I can see where they're going to go more in the Mandalorian season 1 type of storytelling, where it's the week adventures. It's got some depth, but it's not super deep, and it's going to, they're going to be, whereas Mando had a lot of side quests to like fill space. One of the things I did like about this series is we're getting right to it. We're not going to mess around with any side quests or anything like that. We got a murder mystery. We got to kill him.
Yeah, it's very
It's
focused.
and so those were some of the things I did like about it.
Yeah,
Um,
it kind of feels like it's an in between for me. I feel like if I had to compare two shows and where I find it kind of in the middle, definitely like Andor on one side and maybe Ahsoka on the other. And I feel like it maybe fits right in between there. Like when I think of Ahsoka, I think like it's a show that's very much an animated kind of come to life that's still
mhm.
relying on kid friendly
Yeah,
dialogue, but it's also not as heavy handed as that of something like Andor. And so I
yeah,
think there is like a little bit of a meeting of the two in between there for something like the Acolyte.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I completely agree. And Adam, one of the things you mentioned is the world building. That was one of the things that I did like as well. Just finally, we're no more damn sand.
Right? Right? Like, please,
uh,
I'm tired of these
yeah,
sand planets,
yeah,
man.
yeah. The practical effect. Anyone who's ever listened to our podcast knows that we're really, really, really big on practical effects and having those and the set pieces. You know, you can definitely tell when something's been shot in a volume versus this show and Andor, and that really was something that stood out to me as far as the editing and the set pieces in that they are on they're on either they're on a soundstage proper or they're on location. I want to say didn't they film like Portugal
I think they did
or
have some, yeah, they definitely did
yeah,
some on site and in
on site.
studio for sure.
Yeah, so so that came out very clear, but I also agree that there were some pieces where we are on a TV show, even though there was
Yeah.
cinematic in
Oh, that
some
was
regard,
watching
but
like Xena or Hercules for
yeah,
brief moments.
yeah, but then there was also places where it was like, yeah, we're on a Disney Plus show here. Um,
Yeah, I
but
will say I know you guys talk about the the transport as sort of like a fix it all of moving the plot to the direction that you want. But to connect it to your talk about the set design, I really enjoyed the design of the ship. And not only
yeah,
that, too,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
the fact that we are in the tail end of the High Republic, there is something cool about there is something cool to me about seeing the idea of droids, like the soldier
mm,
droids or the guards or something like that, kind of controlling the ship and whatnot, and just the designs that they kind of come up with. It feels outdated, like an outdated way of transporting people. But if I was like, well, yeah, if you're 100 years in the past, yeah, this is probably how they did it. So I kind
yeah,
of dug that aspect of the
yeah,
ship sequences for sure.
I
yeah,
I did like, even though I nitpick, or I kind of complained about how like it felt like that was very much like a we're doing it this way because plot convenience and all that kind of stuff. I still did think that was actually a pretty cool scene, like her
Oh yeah,
escaping the ship, especially like as it was
yeah,
crashing.
yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, very cool. And then I also thought like the droids in there were also really creative, especially like the droids that like turn into chairs like as they're
Oh,
yeah,
piloting. I
yeah.
thought that was like a very creative design.
yeah.
I do want to shout out some people that well, Marcelino wind up jumping into our chat. So let me just highlight a couple things here. He does say I'm mixed on the whole thing. I was hoping that Osha would be the killer and that she lies to herself and instead suffers from dual personality, kind of what you were hinting at. Maybe it's a dual personality sort of thing, and eventually embraces her dark side. And then he does mention, he says people are already crapping on it using Rotten Tomatoes audience score of 30% while disregarding the critic score as 93 since they don't speak for the audience. And look, I just want to piggyback off of this real quick, and then I want to move to episodes 1 and then 2 real quick. Um, this morning late last night, I posted something on Twitter about what did you guys think? I want opinions. Let me know what you thought about the first 2 episodes. Let me know how you guys felt about it. And somebody just posted the Rotten Tomatoes critic score and the audience score, and that's it. They didn't leave anything.
Hmm.
I was just like, really? Like that's how you are gonna answer that question, huh? So I ended up replying back. Um, I said, I said, one, don't be dishonest. Okay. I says, good and well, this show from an audience perspective has been reviewed bomb. Let's live in reality and use intelligence. The score truly means nothing. And then I said, two, I asked, what did you think? Can you not articulate what you watched? Did you watch to actually have an opinion, or do you follow the flock? I'm asking for a detailed opinion in the first 2 episodes. And of course, the person never responds back.
Mhm.
That's just how they work, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they crap on it. They have no opinion. They haven't even seen it for themselves, but they want you to think it's a terrible show. So I really have gotten to the point now where when it comes to at least Star Wars social media, I just ignore it because I just it's those are just like the opinions you just honestly cannot value because of just their mindset sometimes. So but let's talk about episode 1 here briefly.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the light side, the pros of episode 1 that you guys were really big fans of. For me, we talked a little bit about the crash landing and the idea of OSHA being connected with May. I thought that was a pretty cool little force ability that we kind of tapped into, or the fact that they are clearly both force sensitive and have that bond and sort of that connection to where it literally brings OSHA just back to her home world and kind of not only, having us find out the idea that there are certainly twins through this particular sort of force connection, understanding that there's a much bigger implication that the idea that it was May that wind up burning down their village and killing the family and whatnot. So I thought that was a really cool way, visually and editing wise, how she wakes up on the ship only for us to come to find out that this is really just sort of like a gigantic sort of, I don't want to say a mind trick, but she's clearly in the force and having a vision with her sister connected, only to then wake up in the physical ship after it's all kind of wrapped up. So I was a big fan of that. And yeah, Lee Jong Jae, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Master Soul is just, hey, when he's on screen, he's absolutely captivating to me.
Yeah.
Everything that he says, I'm paying attention to. Every time he emotes, I'm paying attention to. When he's thinking about his Padawan, from like there just seems like he's a fallible Jedi master. Like he's a great master, but you can clearly tell that he struggles in certain areas, especially when it comes to this particular moment in his life and now having to deal with rekindling with OSHA. But I love him. I love their combination in here. And I thought they did a marvelous job of reuniting these two, and you can really tell. Just yeah, Master Soul is amazing to me in this. What else did you guys like about this episode?
For me, I also really like Master Soul. My fiance and I both kind of got Liam Neeson vibes from him, Qui-Gon Jinn vibes, mostly because like what we kind of see from him in the first episode to kind of show you how he stands apart from the other Jedi is that kind of like Qui-Gon, he'll teach his Padawan things that like you wouldn't get from other Jedi. Like his Padawan asks him why it is that he seems to be attached to his previous Padawans when as Jedi, you're supposed to let go of all attachment. And I like that he doesn't necessarily give an answer that is contradictory of the Jedi. He just kind of like says that, it's the same as, knowing your past. So that way you don't repeat the same mistakes. You can learn from the successes and the failures of the past. I really like that. And it's something that we even kind of see later on in Star Wars, in both like kind of the, prequels and the sequels going forward. So I really, really like him so far. I think he's probably my favorite character in the show so far.
Yeah, I agree with he's definitely one of my favorites. Amanda Stenberg, as far as the work that she's been doing, she's also very one of the bright spots. I hadn't really seen her work before
Right.
this show,
Mhm.
so I'm new to her, but I really thought that she playing the twins really sold it very, very well, and made
Agree.
some both Leslie Headland. I think she directed both these 2 episodes. I think directed her well and got the best good performances out of her. And I think some of the acting choices that she made also added to added to the believability as far as what was going on with the twins. And some other things that I really like too is just, even though this is set 100 years before Phantom Menace, I did like how it really, it's a prequel to a prequel, and really got to showing why certain things happen in the prequel trilogy.
Mhm.
From the politics, the Master Saul was like, you know, giving our enemies something to work with here. I mean, so there's the political aspects of it. Stuart, you mentioned the Qui-Gon, and I thought the same thing as well. But there definitely is some things as far as the Jedi dogma that he was already kind of questioning that those things. So at least with episode one, those were the things that really stood out to me. And
Yeah.
it just yeah, those were really the two.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on the Amanda Stanberg stuff. I even put in my notes in big quotations. I think she was incredible in these 2 episodes. I mean, the idea that they really put her to work and she had to do 2 dual roles, like that's a heavy lifting to be, one of the if not the head lead of a television show. You know what I mean? So big props to her. I actually thought the opening crawl, how they utilized that
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah.
interesting. Not so much a crawl, but just and then the pan down onto the planet. I really, really enjoyed how they pulled that one off. I appreciated the dialogue for the most part. I even really love the Jedi outfits in here. The fact that we went, especially when we first meet Yord and his Padawan on the ship, and he's coming out with a white cloak and the lighter tones. But then when they're on planet, they got the more sandy, sort of tan, brownish sort of stuff. So I thought the designs for the costumes in here were pretty good. And you did mention the idea, Will, and both of you guys did, about like the political sort of implications. One of the things that I put in my notes was secrets, secrets, secrets. Telltale signs that during this time period, they're not necessarily your dad's Jedi, right? Like they're not necessarily the same Jedi. I saw somebody complaining online about like, oh, a Jedi wouldn't just, go into somebody's mind like that immediately. Because when Yord gets onto the ship and he wants to find out where Osha's at, he's right in the Moidian's head trying to just get the information out, without even permission or anything like that. And there is a level of like the Jedi at a place where they feel like I don't know if it's like an air of invincibility that they have, or there's I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but it just
they're peak Jedi at this point. I mean, this is when they're at their like prime power as far as in the galaxy, as far as being a protectors and
I put, just from the idea of Vanestra wanting to keep things hidden on the DL, Master Soul not being upfront about Osha's sister, right? Like the idea that Osha has a sister is not even in the archives, it's not even her files, right? Like these are secrets that they're literally keeping to themselves. And it does paint a bigger picture of one, this could easily have helped led to the demise of where we see them in the prequels to me. And then just the idea of just seeing how when it comes to the Jedi, they're so comfortable in their roles, almost like they can get away with anything. And when you have certain moments like that, I also love the music in here, how the music changes to a sense of like, as a viewer, I'm watching it and I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know if is he allowed to do that? Like, I don't know if he's supposed to do that in regards to just violating people's minds and going inside and getting what he wants to. But it almost feels like there's this air of invincibility that this hubris that the Jedi sort of carry around with them a little bit, that makes them feel like, yeah, we can pretty much kind of do anything. And it doesn't feel like it's flagrant, but it just feels like you said, they're at the height of their power at this point. But I think it's something that certainly weakens them also.
I also think that like a lot of people will say like, oh, a Jedi would never do that. A Jedi never should do that. And it's like, I think what people are like kind of confusing is what a Jedi should and shouldn't do. And they're confusing this with what Jedi would and wouldn't do. And the thing is, like, yes, there are some things that a Jedi shouldn't do. And I totally agree with that. But if you watch the Clone Wars, you realize that like Jedi operate very differently, like all of them do. I had to look up the name because I totally forgot, but Quinlan Vos is like the prime example of this during the Clone Wars. He was reckless. He was not like, he did not fight like most other Jedi. He was, definitely the kind of guy that if you needed information, he would dig right into someone's mind without, like that would probably be his prime instinct. You get Jedi like that in the Clone Wars. So You know,
Yeah.
so it's like I wouldn't say, you know, when you have Jedi that'll like kind of cross the line they shouldn't cross. I don't agree that that goes against George Lucas's vision, because George Lucas was there during the Clone Wars. He helped write that show. He was the person they had to go to get all of them approved, and he approved those type of Jedi. So this doesn't, like, to me, go against George Lucas's vision.
Well, I mean, even further back, I mean, I just watched the Empire and Return of Jedi over the weekend, and Obi-Wan. I mean, we got from the OG trilogy secrets. I mean, from episode 4, the big, like, did not, fudge what really happened to Anakin. So
Yeah.
so I mean, it's baked in, this is baked into the DNA of Star Wars and the
Yeah.
Jedi. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not anything new
Not anything
that
new. Yeah.
that because Disney acquired it, they're doing this. George from day one, like, and then of course when Obi-Wan was like, so when he tells Luke, well, what I said was true from a certain point of view. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there.
It's
So
there.
so you both make great points about the secrets. I mean, that's always been, and whether it's in Star Wars universe or in real life, whenever when you're not truthful and keep secrets, bad stuff
Bad thing
happens.
happens.
So
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And I always make it a point too. It's like, this is 100 years in the past too. Like
yeah,
the codes don't necessarily hold up like they used to. They can certainly change over time. I made the comparison of like math. We don't do math like the same way that we did 20 years ago. Like, so like little things like that can certainly change in regards to especially how maybe Jedi kind of view their particular place in the galaxy also. So from the light side, there's always a dark side. Some of the dark side moments, cons from episode 1.
Okay, so this is a nitpick. This isn't like a complaint, especially because we still haven't like gotten a full look, or we still don't even know who it is that that May is currently working for. But I gotta say, like, going back to kind of feeling underwhelmed, just the look so far of what we got with our, master, or the, mastermind behind this whole thing, kind of underwhelming. And I think it's just because to me, it looks too much just like they're playing it safe. They're going with, basically just the most generic Kylo Ren looking design. And it just isn't very creative. I was just, you look at Knights of the Old Republic, some of the really awesome like designs you get from the villains, like during that whole era. That's something I really kind of want to see in a new Star Wars show where we're exploring new Jedi and new Sith. So to me, he came off as, oh yeah, see, even Marcelino kind of puts it in the comments, just looks kind of generic to me. But again, I'm putting that as a nitpick, not a complaint, because again, we don't know anything about this person. We don't even know if he's actually a Sith. For all we know, it's just some regular guy that wears a Sith outfit to come off as intimidating, but in actuality, he's not force sensitive at all. We don't know. So for now, it's a nitpick.
Let me just throw it in there. I'm not convinced that that's the master, though. That might be her master, but I think that's just simply an apprentice to a bigger master.
So it's not Darth Plagueis.
Right. Right. Like I think
right.
I think the true master is certainly behind the scenes. I think this is just simply like, I mean, clearly she looks at him as a master, but I think he's like a teacher at this point.
Yeah, and I think this is maybe a way that they will, to Stewart's point earlier, how they will keep fidelity to what was said in Phantom Menace, which is we haven't seen it. Was it Phantom or was it yeah, I guess it was Phantom, where it was like we haven't seen a Sith in the Millennium. So and given that this series, I think the idea is maybe for it to go maybe 2 or 3 seasons. They may never realize that, oh, this was a Sith that was that by name. They just may think it's just someone who's force sensitive, but or to our point what we just said earlier. I mean, given that the penchant for Jedi to keep secrets, it may just be that data file may just be lost in the archive somewhere,
or somebody probably erased it for all we know.
Yeah.
They like to do that.
Yeah, but
as
like
far as
yeah, exactly. Yeah. As far as dark side for me, I think I know Adam, you had the light side of the or you guys thought the costumes. So the costumes actually, I was not feeling it.
No?
Really?
Okay.
I was feeling like, this is bad. This is cosplay.
This is Party
Actually,
City.
okay, so this is something I've seen a lot of people kind of like bringing up with a lot of modern TV shows. So it kind of like I noticed this like since the Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender is that a lot of costumes, and I noticed it in this show too, they feel less like costumes that you would see in a TV show or a movie, and they feel more like costumes that you would see in a stage production because they're too bright, they're too
Yeah,
clean. They just don't feel like something that someone would actually put on as like
yeah,
casual wear. And I don't know if that's just like kind of just become a new like standard that television executives want to see now, or why that's becoming more common. But it is
yeah,
something that I've definitely noticed. So I
yeah,
think it just hasn't gotten to the point where it bothers me yet. As of now, like I can get why like other people aren't a fan of it, but I guess that just doesn't bother me, at least not
yeah.
yet. I
I
could
mean,
see it if TV continues this like for the next 5 years, then maybe I'll be on board of like being
yeah,
like, can we get more realistic looking costumes now?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess on the one hand, again, this is a different era of Jedi, so they're trying to show like that. Okay, this is still things are still clean and neat, and I'm sort of I guess I'm used to more Old Republic, New Empire period where things are grimy and just dirty and just more lived in. But but yeah, that maybe that was just sort of the disconnect that I was feeling. It was just too neat
Mhm.
and too
I get
clean.
you. I
Yeah.
get you.
So maybe it was more maybe cosplay was a bit harsh, but I just feel like it was kind of a disconnect that I just wasn't feeling it.
Yes.
That and
Yep.
also just Jord, I think beating Kylo Ren's record for being shirtless. But
Yo, that's literally one of my points for the dark side. I'm like, you're shirtless. I mean, come on, man. Like, do we?
yeah,
I was like, what are we doing here? I'm like, they don't have
yeah,
doors in the galaxy far, far away, bro. You can't be doing that behind doors or anything like
yeah,
that. Yeah, it felt a little bit too forced for me, honestly, in that scene.
yeah.
It's
It's
like
it's
I'm glad
yeah,
I'm glad that scene didn't drag, but it's like
Yeah,
weird that both Last Jedi and this have that like moment of like someone intrudes on someone else while they're shirtless, and then they judge
yeah,
that person, even though they're the ones that kind of intruded
yeah,
on them. So it's like
yeah.
I don't know
Gratuitous,
why that's
yeah,
I don't want that to become a common trope in Star Wars.
yeah. Gratuitous skin, whether it's male or female, it's just come on.
yeah.
At least just give a context.
And
Yeah.
I will say if there is one other con that I had outside of the shirtless scene from Yord, I was really excited to see Vernestra Rowe in here.
Mm,
But Rebecca Henderson as Vernestra Rowe, I am not a fan of her performance. I don't know how I expected Vernestra Rowe to be as a character. I'm familiar with her from the books, but at the time frame where she's at in the book, she's like 17 or 16 or something like that. She's super young. But clearly now, 100 years later, she's certainly a master. So clearly she's been a little bit hardened over the years. But just from a performance wise, I just didn't care for what Rebecca Henderson was um what she was bringing. Like, I'm
yeah,
sure she's an accomplished actress. I'm sure she's been in a lot of stuff, but I just wasn't feeling her in the role. And I'm not one of those people that normally says, "Oh, I think she just got this role because she knows this person or she's in a relationship." But this feels like one of those roles. Like for some reason for me, like I feel like casting wise, there probably could have been so many other choices, and yet Rebecca Henderson was certainly given this particular role. So because I think she's married or something like that to Leslie Headland, if I'm not mistaken. So, but it just fell flat for me. Outside of being frustrated with her because of some of the choices that she made,
yeah,
performance wise, it was just really stale to me. And so I wish they had
yeah,
cast somebody else.
It
yeah.
is
I
weird.
don't.
I did okay, so I'm not super I haven't like read any of the High Republic books yet. So I didn't know she was actually from the previous High Republic books, but if she's like a known character, it's weird to me that they would have her kind of be the I don't want to say like full like kind of antagonist, but like they would have her be like somewhat of an obstacle to Master Soul, like basically constantly being the character that he would butt heads with, when this is a character that apparently people connected with in the novels. That's, to me, that's actually kind of a really bizarre choice to do that.
Well, I mean, like I said, she's only like 15, 16, maybe 17 at the most in these books, right? And since this is the tail tail end. She's got to be over 100 years old right now. She's got to be like in her, so I'm sure she's probably been through some that, that's
Yeah,
made
it
her this
just
type of person also.
I would agree. I felt that that character, she felt flat
Hmm.
for her performance.
Just
Yeah,
performance wise, yeah.
yeah, it was very flat. It didn't because I, I I knew that there were some characters that they did bring from the books, and I was watching it with someone, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's someone from the High Republic books." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But I would agree with you that I don't know if it was acting choice or direction, but it was a very flat uh, performance as far as just not leaving a good impression.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go from episode 1 to episode 2. And let's talk about some light side moments, some pros that we were really big fans of in here. Do you want to go first, Stuart? Anybody want to go first on this one?
Ooh. The first thing I do want to say that I thought this episode did a lot better than the second one, to my opinion. I really like the pacing of the second episode. I think the entire time the every scene kind of led me to have another question, there was just another layer to the mystery. And every time I thought I kind of knew where it was going to go, or there specifically there was one scene with the poison where I didn't know it was going to go, and I was like curious how they were going to possibly write a scene like that to make it make sense. And then we ended up getting there, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is where they're going with that. Every time, like I was constantly questioning what was going to happen, and every time I got that answer to a question, just led to a couple more questions. And I think that's how if you're doing a mystery story like they're doing here, that's how you want to do it. I bring up the poison because when we first see her trying to assassinate this Jedi, it's basically a guy who's like super impenetrable, and I was kind of like, well, how are you going to how is a poison going to help with that? Because wouldn't it be impossible to get a poison through the force field if you can't even get your own hand through there? And when they answered that scene, not only was it like, oh, so that's how they do that, but now I have a question of why that worked, and I'm excited
Yeah.
to get that answered.
Yeah, I was like, damn, what did y'all do on this planet? Like the man feels so bad he gotta kill himself. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah,
brutal, man.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, as far as bad light side, to me, it's the fight. That
Oh
uh,
yeah. That was a
yeah.
badass fight.
Whereas, yeah, I didn't get it. But a dark side for episode one was just and I think I alluded to it before. It's just the whole Matrix vibe of with Indira, but the fight, this one, because I know they teased it. I did see. I think that with one of the teasers there during the marketing leading up to this, but to see the whole thing in effect was definitely that was some great fight choreography, and it was also just cool to see Jedi. Had gotten so burnt out, quite frankly, of lightsabers, this passionless lightsaber battles that just this felt visceral again, like that those fights that you got, in Empire and even Revenge of the Sith with Anakin and Obi-Wan. And even Obi-Wan the series,
Yeah.
whenever they had that battle,
Yeah.
that's been missing in Star Wars. So that was my definite light side for the second episode.
Yeah, I love
Mhm.
that move when she goes to and I find it interesting May's trying to get all these lightsabers. She's always
Mm,
going for the lightsabers, but I
mhm.
love the move of Master Soul moving so fast. He's like behind her before he even knows it. And that slow-mo shot as she turns
Yep.
around. So some really great choreography and camera work, honestly.
And then I also love how, we see her trying to go for his lightsaber. We don't see him going for her weapons, but before we know it,
Yeah.
he has like all of her knives that she's been like, using as like,
Yeah.
like lethal weapons to throw at the Jedi. Absolutely, like that caught me off guard, and that was like freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I was definitely a big fan. One, I'm glad to see his Padawans connecting in here.
Mhm.
His current Padawan, Master Soul's current Padawan and Jackie, and his old one. There are elements sometimes that I wonder, is there going to be levels of friction between these two or not somewhere down the road, whether that be this season or the next season. Like the fact that Jackie in episode 1 comes across him still looking at her hollows and stuff, right? I'm like, how does Jackie feel about that? Like I am kind of curious if there's any sort of friction that winds up coming out of it, of Soul maybe still holding on to Osha a little bit. But that does lead me to what I thought was a really great scene in here. And I really keep talking about Soul and Osha's relationship. One, because I think this episode hinted a little bit more as to maybe why she left the order in the first place. He talks about the idea of him trying to teach her how to handle like her grief and sort of move on from the past and not blame herself so much for everything that happens. And she's like, maybe that's why I wasn't so good at this. Kind of hinting that maybe there was some obstacle she just certainly couldn't get over. And he mentioned something. He was like, maybe it's not so much that you were a bad student, but maybe I was a bad teacher. And
Mhm. Yeah.
as much as he talks about the idea of having to move past, you can clearly tell that Soul himself really hasn't moved past what certainly happened there. The fact that it's now been brought up, it's bringing all this stuff back, right? So it's that mentality of, how can you be a good teacher and teach somebody something that you yourself haven't even necessarily learned, you know what I mean, learned from, sort of thing. And so I just thought that was explored really well in this episode, and just hints at the bigger mystery overall as to why she left and really what happened on their planet, to the point of like these people carrying around these secrets and wanting, I don't know if they're trying to cover it up now or like they just don't want it to get out. But like you said, Stuart, the fact that this man took the poison, I'm just like, what did you guys do? Like there's
Yeah.
such a much
Yeah.
bigger story here.
I also, really quick with going back to their relationship, I love that one line she kind of gave him, because it was almost like his teacher instincts were just kind of like kicking back in as they were like kind of back together, and he was like telling her the dangers of like holding on to like anger and things like that. And I like her response, which is like, I'm no longer a Jedi, so you don't get to tell me how to feel about that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I'm allowed to be emotional now since I'm not a Jedi anymore.
I did love the scene too when the sisters make eye contact at the end, and
Mhm.
Mhm.
she's gotta stun her, and she to me she chooses to miss
Oh
on
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
on both instances. And I think even Yord and Saul could definitely tell that that was certainly the case.
Yeah. That was
Um,
definitely a choice.
we did get ourselves an introduction to was it Kalnak, I believe his name is, the Wookiee, who's
Yeah.
on the planet that apparently is going to be the next Jedi that's attempted to be killed here. What did you guys think of his, not only the planet, but the idea that his ship literally has a tree growing out of it? I get like Yoda vibes from it, honestly.
Yeah. I missed that. That's a good call. I
Yeah,
think
he
that's
because I think the 2 wanderers come across it and they're like,
yeah.
"Oh, look, there's a ship. It maybe it has a hyperdrive," and it literally has a gigantic tree like built all around
Yeah.
it, sort of thing, as he enters. And it just made me think of like Yoda's base on Dagobah that, maybe planted itself, but then life kind of grew around it. And like that's just the
Yeah.
vibes that I got from it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, if we it's pretty dope to have a Wookiee Jedi. It
Mhm.
is because we and I guess it does again expand. It grows the universe. It just reminds us that that's one of the things I think this show is doing a little better, I will say, than Andor did. Is that it's showing that it's a big galaxy, and uh, so having a Wookiee Jedi, I know Janusz, I think he took over for Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca.
Mhm.
But uh, I'm all for it. I mean, it's one of those things like, as earlier mentioned, it's like it's too bad that this is this is sometimes where the binge model is good, where you can be like, okay, I'm ready to go to the next episode because
Yeah.
Yeah.
the way that they ended things, I was like, okay, this is a character I want to learn more about.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that I definitely do think that this series benefits from the idea of, so far 2 episodes in, I find myself ready for the next one. Like I think they do a pretty good job of building that intrigue. Any cons for episode 2? Any things that really fell flat for you? I think for me, my 2 biggest was, like I mentioned, the Jedi temple more like a
Mhm.
Jedi outpost. I didn't really care for the set design in
Yeah.
that regards. And then probably the assistant to May is interesting to me. I don't necessarily know if I would call it a con so much as one, I didn't really care for the character, but he is intriguing in the sense that there's more to him than meets the eye. I mean, the fact that at the end when he's trying to escape or May is trying to find him, he's literally able to fend off May from killing him clearly shows that he's trained. And the fact that he has mentioned the term he, I don't know if he's dropped the name master or not, but I don't know if he knows who that person truly is and is connected somehow, but he knows more than I think he certainly is letting on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got that
yeah,
vibe too.
for sure. Same. I like that character. I like Manny Jacinto's character. Was it Cormier? I think his
I think
name
that's his name or
is.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I actually like that character quite a bit. I would put that one on my light side. As far as my dark side, again, it's actually another uh, physical action scene. May with Master Tobin, I think was his name.
Oh,
The
Oh
Torben,
yeah.
Master Torben. Yeah.
Torben, Master Torben. Yeah, that just.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the yeah, that God
I
bless
see
her.
it.
She
I
did
mean,
her
I thought it
best
was
she
a
could
cool
with that.
force ability though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, but I gotta be fair here and say that it's really hard to make a scene like that look good. To like have a scene where
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to punch through an invisible barrier. You want to make it known that you can't get through it, but it also apparently doesn't like push back or hurt when you like punch it. And like trying to sell that is really, really difficult, you
Yeah.
know?
I think it's the sound helps too.
Mhm.
I think that the
Mhm.
sound work in
Yeah.
that scene, I think helps a little bit also.
Yeah.
Um,
It just seemed kind of silly. I don't know.
I get it. I get it.
I just didn't rock with it. But
Did you have a con, Stuart? Did you say your con already? If you
Oh
had one?
man, I don't know if I had a con.
Because you
I
liked
guess
this episode, right? This was a good one for
yeah,
you.
I did really like this episode overall. I guess maybe this is a really nitpicky con. But so far with Yord and Jackie as characters, just like I'm not the biggest fan of them currently. But again, I think it's just because the show's not focusing much on them.
Mhm.
So again, putting that on a very nitpicky, not like an actual con. So I think with this episode, yeah, I don't think I had any cons.
Yeah, I think when it comes, Yord and Jackie are just two new distinct characters that I think we have to get used to what their personality traits are like. Like for me, Yord is very much just he holds himself to high regard, is a little bit of like a jock cockiness, I think, to him a
Mhm.
little bit,
Mhm.
that I think could certainly rub people the wrong way. Jackie, I think, is the type that wants to speak her mind, but maybe has to realize when she needs to bite her tongue, sort of thing. But at the same, like, I think Jackie's pretty real, and she seems like she's rather intelligent, especially based off of the idea that Master Soul decided to go with her plan out of everybody's plan on how to take down May in this one, or at least get the information out of that guy, the assistant at the
Yeah.
end. So I think Jackie's going to grow on me a little bit more as the season progresses.
Yeah.
Let's before we wrap this up, let's grade each individual episode. Looking at the legend at the bottom, if you had to give a percentage, what grade would that come out to you for an A plus? I mean, excuse me, what grade would that come out for you guys in regards to episode 1?
I think for me, I'm going to give episode 1 a C.
Okay, and what percentage? Oh, a C. So was that
Oh,
75,
so
74,
yeah, I'll give it a
73?
75. So the higher end of a C.
Okay. What about you? What about you, Will?
I'll give it a C plus 79.
A 79. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna be kind of gracious with this one, y'all. Because I was a big fan, with the exception really of Vernestra Rowe's performance in here. So I'm gonna be the oddball out. I'm gonna go ahead and say a B plus, but I'm gonna go the lower end. So I'm gonna go say like a 86 for me for this one.
Yeah.
So if we had to map that out, divide that by 3 and 8, so that gives us a B minus. B minus for episode
Yeah.
1.
I
All
think that's
right.
fair.
Yeah. Sounds
I think
good.
I think
Yeah, I
that's
think
fair.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
What about episode 2?
I gave it a B minus, 83. Or
83?
yeah, excuse me, that's a B B.
Well, 82?
81.
81? Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Stewart? You were
I'm
a
gonna
fan
give
of
it a B plus, but the lower end of a B plus, so an 86.
8.6? Okay. Um, what did I give the last one, a B plus? Man, you know what? Give me a C plus, but I'm gonna go high end. I'm gonna go 7.9. 7.9 here. So when I divide that out, 8.2, another B minus. So we got two B minuses back
Yeah.
to back.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So far the show's passing.
Yeah, but you know, like in reality, I feel like both of those are pretty fair in regards to it. B minuses for both shows. Because I can't sit here and say, man, I was blown away.
Right.
But I've really enjoyed both of these 2 episodes together.
Yeah.
So definitely a passing grade to me. So that yeah, I'm totally down with that. B minus for both shows average.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I think that's fair.
But
It's fine.
yeah, it works.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Look, at the end of the day, though, these are just simply our A plus opinions. We always want to know your guys' thoughts. Shout out to Nathan, real quick. He just said, I don't know if it's a dark side for y'all, but what's going on with the same hairstyle with black men? Yord, Killmonger, Eco from Arcane. Yeah, they got Miles Morales. Yeah, they got the little short dreads going, man. What's going on here, y'all? And seeing a nerd podcast coming through. Good to see you guys here, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, guys. Will, if people want to find you on social media, man, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find our show on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scene and Nerd, and we're also on Instagram and Threads at Scene_N_Nerd. You see our website here on the little thing here, so we can get all our podcasts there. Follow us on YouTube as well, and you can follow me at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK, and as I noted, we'll be dropping our Acolyte review and also our review of the first 5 episodes of season 2 of The Bear. We're getting ready for that coming up here at the end of June, for on this upcoming Friday.
Excellent, man. Yeah, so everybody go ahead and follow Will and Scene and Nerd when you get the chance. Stuart, if people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you, sir?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Instagram.
And just so you guys know, we will be doing this for you guys live every Wednesday, 10 p.m. Central Time. You know, we had 2 episodes to go ahead and dive into, so the episodes probably won't be this long going forward, but we definitely wanted to go ahead and dive into it deep to go ahead and get this started. But every Wednesday live at 10 p.m. Central Time, certainly join us back here next week. And we should still have Crystal Kyber with us as well for another fantastic perspective. If you want to follow us on social media, right here at A Plus Opinions, active everywhere on social media. Check us out mostly on our YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed. Also, our Facebook page. We post all news, articles, information, posters, trailers all throughout the week to keep you guys up to date. We also have a Discord forum community. There's a link in the description box below. Follow us on TikTok at Hero Report. And yeah, A Plus Opinions everywhere else. But until next week, guys, that's going to do it for us. So do us a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A Plus. May the force be with you. We'll talk to you later. Bye.